Did Rodney Terry save his job at Texas, or the Longhorns plan to make a change regardless of what they do here in the postseason? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Check them out at FanDuel.com. All right, let's get into some of the news and notes happening yesterday in the SEC tournament. We got to start with Texas defeating Texas A&M in a double overtime classic Thursday afternoon or into the evening as the double overtime went. Big quad one win for the Longhorns, who were hanging around on the March Madness bubble, still very much on the bubble. But Trey Johnson, the SEC Freshman of the Year, dropped 20 points. Texas played great defense, held the Aggies to just 34% shooting from the field, and a big, big win for Texas. Now, some out there still think Longhorns need one more win to lock themselves into the NCAA tournament. But this now gives them 7 quad one wins on the year, and they're going to get Tennessee today. Kind of interesting that it's Rick Barnes, former Longhorn basketball coach, now Tennessee. But the big question that people are talking about, the fallout and what this means for Rodney Terry, the Texas basketball coach. Now, I know what a lot of you were saying out there. You're SEC fans, if you're an Auburn fan, Bama fan, Florida fan, whatever, you're going, why do I give a damn about Rodney Terry? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. But Longhorns may think twice about parting ways with him. He was very much on the hot seat the last couple of weeks. The Houston Chronicle, we talked about this earlier in the week, reported that Longhorn athletic director Chris Del Conte, rumblings behind the scenes, Chris Del Conte would prefer to move on from Rodney Terry, despite the team very much alive for a postseason bid. This is what the Houston Chronicle wrote. They said, it's hard to report with absolute clarity about the future of men's basketball coach Rodney Terry because the team still has a chance of making the NCAA tournament. But the belief is AD Chris Del Conte would prefer to make a change. Terry has shown so far he's not an alpha coach, and Texas may not want to part with the $20 million or more that it would take to fire and hire coaching staffs and pay buyouts. And of course, the names that have come up there, Chris Del Conte is enamored, according to reports, with people like Quinn Snyder and Billy Donovan and John Calipari. And that these are the ones that, these are the names that they would start with, Chris Del Conte, in terms of replacing Rodney Terry. And really, when you go back to it, Chris Del Conte probably never would have hired Rodney Terry to be the Longhorns head coach based on his resume prior to taking over at Texas. If you go back and remember, he was the head coach at Fresno State, where he went 126 and 108, made the NCAA tournament once, and then 3 seasons at UTEP, which were not very good. He went 37 and 48. That's not the resume of a guy you would go, that is who we need to be the head coach of the University of Texas. But remember, it was the issue with Chris Beard. He got dismissed after, domestic issue with his wife. And, I think all the charges were later dropped or whatever, but it was a bad look at the time, and Texas had to pull the trigger, and they went, all right, Chris Beard, you're fired. Rodney Terry became the interim coach, and he did an excellent job of taking over. But as someone pointed it out, that Texas team that made a very nice run, they were one of the most experienced teams in the country. It was built around 5 fifth-year seniors, guys like Marcus Carr, Christian Bishop, Timmy Allen. So he filled in for Chris Beard in the interim and led Texas to an Elite 8 appearance. And a lot of people, recruits really liked him, and the current players really liked him, and they went to bat for him. And I think once it got to the Sweet 16, it was like, okay, this could happen. But then when he got to the Elite Eight, it was like, okay, Texas, you can't turn your back on this guy now. Like, look at what he just did. He took over in extremely difficult situation. But some said, well, that was a Chris Beard team. All he kind of, it was like you were handed the keys to Ferrari. You just had to drive it well. But this year, Texas, they just had their best offensive player since Kevin Durant in Trey Johnson, was named SEC Player of the Year. And yet the Longhorns struggled in their first year in the SEC. So as the question is, what is the future of Rodney Terry? Jeff Ketchum over at Orange Bloods, he said this. He said, according to a university source that I strongly trust, it's unlikely that Rodney Terry's fate was strongly impacted by UT's win over A&M in the SEC tournament on Thursday. He said the season may hang in the balance of what happens, but Chris Del Conte isn't making any major decisions based on the conference tournament. Making the NCAA tournament is not his goal as an athletic director. He said, I don't know what he's going to do, but I would wager the decision is made and he's going to make a change. Or if he's going to make a change, he's already doing the things that he does when he goes into hunting mode. Remember when the job opened, they were, Steve Sarkisian's name. They settled on, that's our guy. Let's go get our guy. If he has a guy in mind, I'm sure those discussions are already being had behind closed doors. Ketchum went on to say, it was stressed to me that if Texas makes the NCAA tournament and they were to get into the second weekend of the tournament, that Rodney Terry would almost certainly get a third season, unless Del Conte feels like he has an upgrade lined up and ready to go behind the scenes. And that's where I say, this list of the names of the people he wants, you would have to have a deal in place regardless. And you would have to have those discussions right now. Because let's be real, even if, let's say Terry goes on an amazing run and Trey Johnson goes off and they get to the Final Four. You can't get rid of him after that. I don't care what deal you have behind closed doors. Ketchum went on to say there seems to be more buzz about hiring an expensive NBA coach without a buyout to replace Terry if he's let go than there is to hire an expensive college head coach with a buyout. Longhorns will not be able to hire the kind of head coach you could feature on a billboard without a commitment, bordering on the $5 million per year ballpark for NIL. So that's a whole nother discussion about this. Is okay, we know revenue share and we know money is sparse and all that kind of stuff now. Or you got to be, you can't just throw money around for buyouts and all that kind of stuff. So it does make sense that they would target maybe an NBA head coach that you don't have to pay a buyout on, as opposed to going to get a current sitting college head coach that you have to pay a buyout, pay all his assistants and all that, and still find $5 million plus to invest in NIL money for that coach to go build a team. So it makes sense. But just some of the names, and this was Kirk Bowles of the Houston Chronicle a couple of days ago. He said, I can confirm the names that they want or they're looking at that Chris Del Conte would be interested in if a change were made from Rodney Terry. NBA head coach Quinn Snyder, who of course is with the Hawks, Billy Donovan, head coach with the Bulls, and Arkansas head coach John Calipari. Snyder makes $8 million a year. Donovan makes $6 million a year. Calipari makes $7 million a year and has a $6 million buyout from Arkansas. So that's a pretty huge check you'd have to write. And look, not to hate on Cal, we'll get to him in a minute, but is that really going to pay $13 million to get him away from Arkansas after he just barely made the tournament in year one at Arkansas? So there's that. I've seen some other people put out some lists of some likely other candidates. If they were going to go to the college ranks, you got Grant McCaslin at Texas Tech. You got TJ Otzelberger at Iowa State. You got Will Wade, the former LSU coach, who's at McNeese State. And then some names that are off the table, most likely. Kelvin Sampson at Houston. Sounds like he would not leave. I did see somebody said, why not bring Chris Beard back? I think that ship has kind of sailed. Even from just a PR standpoint, you can't do that. But, it sounds like it would be likely, a Quinn Snyder, Billy Donovan type. Or if you want to go dig up Jay Wright, who left coaching at the Peak and went to go the broadcasting path, can you convince him? Is there any check that you could write that could convince him to jump back into the college game? But I do like the idea of, go get an NBA coach where you don't have to pay a big buyout to get him. But, look, Quinn Snyder and Billy Donovan, both track records very good in terms of, guys who've coached at the highest level. But Billy Donovan's been many, many years removed from those Florida titles. I mean, we're talking going on 20 years now. And Quinn Snyder, pretty good NBA coach, could have translated back to the college realm where he hasn't coached in a while. So, and are both those just names that are absolute home runs that would fire up the fan base and sell out season tickets and, hey, we're on a better path. But I will say this, everything we've heard about Texas has been about getting, look at the coaches they have all around it in all the rest of their athletic programs. Vic Schaefer, women's head coach, just got an extension, one of the best out there. Steve Sarkisian, back-to-back playoff appearances. He is, considered right now one of the best coaches in all of college football. And then all the other smaller sports. I mean, they have great coaches up and down the roster. The men's basketball coach, Rodney Terry, I think you get to that and you go, yeah, it's okay. Texas is not, they're not in the business of doing okay. With all their money and resources, everything they have on 40 acres, they want splash. They want big. One other note on this game, and again, congrats to Texas for pulling out the win over A&M, taking not just one overtime, but two overtimes. Wade Taylor broke another record at Texas A&M. The longtime Aggie is now the all-time leading scorer in the history of the SEC tournament. The SEC confirmed that news on Thursday. He hit 188 career points on this stage. The previous record holder was Tennessee guard Allen Houston, who scored 187 points across 9 games in his SEC tournament career. It was the 11th SEC tournament game of Wade Taylor's career, so it has taken him a bit more time to get that record than it did Allen Houston. What's interesting is I brought that up about, I picked Buzz Williams and A&M to go far in this tournament because I looked at their track record, and I was like, God, every year Buzz Williams goes at least 3 games deep into the tournament. Well, fluke loss today, or, yesterday, you lose close one that you should have put away early with a few minutes to go. Had a chance to, was it a 4-point game? And then they hit a 3. It would have made a 7-point game, but Buzz Williams had just called a timeout, so the 3 didn't count. And then, Texas made some plays and it was tied, went to overtime. But congrats to Wade Taylor. Very cool for him. It's been a record-breaking run recently. Became the all-time leading scorer in A&M basketball history earlier this month. Became the second Aggie to have his jersey honored by the program, joining AC Law. And, of course, A&M will find out what seed they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. We'll see if they get dinged at all for the first, being 0-1 in the SEC tournament. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we will talk about John Calipari in Arkansas and what transpired yesterday. That's coming your way in just a second. Well, first, one of you guys, we're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team plus the gear wherever you need to go. It is powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big cruise, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Also, guys, March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins, as $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. If you got your eye on a few underdogs this year, FanDuel going to make it easy for you to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. So go visit them right now as at FanDuel.com. Get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. And look, you got tournament games happening almost every day, so there's always something exciting to bet on. That's FanDuel.com. Get in on the college hoops action now. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC, part of Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And look, Texas wasn't the only winner yesterday. How about Sean Pedulla, the hero for Ole Miss? He missed his first 6 3-pointers of the day. Came up clutch with a game winner in the final seconds to send Ole Miss to the next round in Nashville. Arkansas did a great job of battling with Ole Miss, and looked like they maybe we were going to pull this one out. But Pedulla, after the game, said, "Look, it's March. Gotta go get a bucket," and he hit the one that mattered most. Pull up 3. Finding the bottom of the net with just over 1 second remaining in the game. But Ole Miss outscored Arkansas 6-0 in the final 20 seconds of the game. Dre Davis converted an old-fashioned 3-point play with 20 seconds to go to tie it. And Ole Miss was already safely going to make the NCAA tournament, but a big win for the Rebels when it comes to seeding for the big dance. Ole Miss is now 7-9 in quad 1 games this year, and they will get a chance to perhaps put another one on their resume in taking on Auburn today. Now, Arkansas coach John Calipari, he has said that SEC tournament's not a big focus for him. We don't really care. When Calipari's team, look, they missed free throws in a big moment down the stretch in the final seconds. Trevon Brazile, 58% free throw shooter, missed a couple of free throws. Could have improved the Arkansas lead with 8 seconds left, but it didn't. And so Arkansas, they have to hope that they did enough. And that's the big question with John Calipari now is after the game, he said, hopefully we've done enough and done enough in this league. He said, I think we've proven it, but I'm not in the room. So I don't know what's happening around the country because I haven't watched. I don't have any idea who's doing what right now. I was just focused on this game. Well, Joe Lunardi, after the game yesterday, had Arkansas as one of the last 4 buys in his bracketology. Their net ranking heading into the day was at 39. But Lunardi has his Oklahoma as a team that is in after they beat Georgia the other night. And then he's got Arkansas and Vandy in his last 4 buys. So he's got Vanderbilt in, I believe, as a 10 seed. And then he's got Texas in his last 4 in currently. He thinks Rodney Terry and company did enough with the win over A&M that sways them into the tournament. Remember the other night he had them at 39. Or his number 69 team. He was like, they're just outside. They're the first one out. Win over A&M puts Texas in. And again, he has Arkansas not only in the first or the last 4 in, he's got them in the last 4 buys. He's got 4 teams behind them. So we'll see if Arkansas did enough. But John Calipari, man, this certainly looks like an Arkansas team that, they're just streaky, man. Like there are times where they look incredible. There's times where they don't look very good. But a team that could certainly do some damage in the NCAA tournament. So we'll see. It's going to be a good rest of the SEC tournament, of course, with some teams that haven't even played yet in action tomorrow. We mentioned Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, and Alabama. We will all see them in action. And, of course, all they got to do is win Friday, win Saturday, and then you're in the championship game on Sunday. So can't wait to see how those teams respond here as the SEC tournament continues on. It's been a heck of a tournament. Very entertaining. Mississippi State, Missouri, very entertaining. It's just been a very, very fun tournament to watch. Hey, one more quick note here on SEC hoops. ESPN expert Jonathan Givony, he put out his 2-round mock NBA draft. I know it's a little early. It's March, but we're already looking ahead to the summer and the NBA draft and just kind of looking to see what SEC guys he's got in there. Well, he's got Trey Johnson from Texas going 5th overall. He's got Jeremiah Fears, the freshman from Oklahoma, going 11th overall. So how's that for two freshmen with 2 teams new to the conference? Could go 5th and 11th overall in the NBA draft, both from Texas and Oklahoma, the 2 new schools. He's got Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina going 16th. He's got Asa Nuo going 20th from Georgia. He's got Alex Condon going 26th from Florida. And he's got Adu Thiero going 28th overall from Arkansas. And then you get in the second round. He's got Boogie Flan from Arkansas going 38th. Chaz Lanier from Tennessee going 40th. How about this? Janai Broom in the running for player of the year from Auburn. Got him going 41st overall. It's just weird. It's a little bit maybe like the Oscar Tshiebwe thing. Like, guy's just a dominant, really great college player that maybe just won't translate to the NFL or the NBA, rather. We'll see. And then lastly, they got Kobe Bray from Kentucky going 58th. So it's a mock draft, and it's very early, but we'll see what happens there. But those are just some of the SEC guys and where they are projected and slated to go. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. When we return, Nick Saban in trouble with the FCC for what he says on TV. We will get to that coming up in just a second. But first, I want to remind you about our friends over at Monarch Money. And look, if you have ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. And that's why Monarch Money wants to come in and help you out. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility, control over your finances. Monarch Money, they're not just a budgeting app. They're a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. When you start Monarch, you realize just how much you're spending on things like food delivery. It'll make you want to budget smarter and save more. And look, instead of juggling a bunch of different apps, you use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. They're going to do it all for you. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. With Monarch Money, you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Go take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com. Get 50% off your first year. That's Monarch, MONARCH, money.com. Code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year. Go check them out today. Going along here, Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And it's been a kind of a mixed show here. We've been talking a lot on college basketball, and look, there's even some rumblings out there. I didn't even mention it with the Rodney Terry news, but some people were saying, could they go get perhaps Nate Oates from Alabama? Do you think they could write a check for him? Again, buyout involved, but just wanted to bring that up, that Texas, that's another name that people have floated out there. All right, let's get to some college football, or just a tidbit here we saw the other day. And this is pertaining Nick Saban swearing on ESPN. Former Alabama head coach Nick Saban made some waves back in December when he was on ESPN's College Game Day. It was the day of the SEC championship game. And Saban was talking about schools that were fined the week before. And he said, look, I think to fine these schools $100,000 is like worrying about mouse manure when you're up to your ears in elephant bleep. Well, the bleep was one of the several profanities that the national championship coach uttered during his time on College Game Day last season. And one concerned viewer from the state of Missouri took action. The FCC received a complaint from that person regarding Nick Saban's swear words. They said Nick Saban said the word bleep twice. We have to censor ourselves here. And the B word and something else I can't remember. We tune in to gain knowledge and insight in college football, not to have profanity stuffed in our face by a former coach trying to be funny. These FCC complaints were obtained via the Freedom of Information Act over at AL.com. Throughout the college football season, the FCC received 3 obscenity complaints mentioning Nick Saban. AL.com did note none of those complaints came from the state of Alabama. Go figure. He's God. The second came when Saban mentioned Saban's fellow game day analyst, Pat McAfee. The complaint said, I continually hear profanity on College Game Day, which airs on ESPN. This show comes on from 9 a.m. to noon. Children are awake and can be exposed to this broadcast. Goodness. According to the FCC's enforcement actions log, ESPN did not receive any penalty. Here's the big reason why, folks. Cable television is not subject to the same obscenity rules as terrestrial TV. Right? It's kind of the same thing in radio. Like if somebody's listening on an AM FM dial, there's a certain standard there through the FCC. If you're on Sirius XM, you can curse there. That's why Howard Stern went there many years ago. But same applies with cable. Like if you're watching over the antenna, the old rabbit ears, yeah, those, ABC, CBS, major networks, they have to follow those rules. ESPN, it's a cable package. It's much like HBO, like you're paying a subscription to get it. So they don't follow the same rules. They can kind of do what they want. But in responding to AL.com's request on these, the FCC made clear that the presence of a complaint did not mean ESPN violated any rules. They were just, they were like, here, this is for public record. These people complained. If you'd like the complaints, we'll give them to you. But basically, FCC is like, we didn't do anything here. We got these complaints, but we didn't act on them because it's ESPN. They follow different rules. Saban swearing on air did happen throughout the season. He had a proclivity for profanity when he was the head coach. If you remember, he would drop S-bombs from time to time on his coach's show, his radio show that he would do. And just over a month after the December 7th complaint, the FCC received another complaint about Saban. This was on January 10th from the state of Virginia. The complaint said college game day announcers continue to use profanity during their primetime broadcasts. During the Ohio State-Texas game, Desmond Howard and Pat McAfee used inappropriate language for a family event. Nick Saban has used inappropriate language during a broadcast as well. If these men want to use this language, please schedule the games after 9 p.m. An ESPN spokesperson declined to comment regarding Nick Saban's swearing. But come on, folks. What are we doing? Like, it's simple as say, like, maybe don't watch college game day, I guess. It's still very much a family show, but it's an entertainment show. And Nick Saban is human. And that's how he talks. He's going to drop an S-bomb from time to time. It's just, if you're really offended by that in the year 2025, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you're better off, I don't know, doing something else, not watching college game day. All right, real quick before we get out of here, I did want to touch on, we're heading into the first SEC weekend of baseball action, and I'm super excited. Some of the series we are getting, we kind of separate these. I saw some people kind of rank, what are the best matchups, whatever. LSU, Missouri, South Carolina, Oklahoma. Those are kind of the ones where I think both teams have a chance to sweep. I think LSU's got a chance to sweep Mizzou. I think Oklahoma's got a chance to sweep South Carolina. Then you kind of got the middle tier games. You got Vandy against Auburn. I like Auburn. Their offenses looked really good so far, but are they for real? We're going to find out when they take on Vandy. Texas versus Mississippi State, really, really good matchup. Texas kind of ahead of schedule so far with Schlossnagle. They looked really good, but I like Mississippi State's pitching, man. 2.77 ERA pitching for Mississippi State. Texas right behind them at 2.85 ERA. So big test for those two pitching staffs this weekend. Who holds up better? And then Kentucky versus Georgia. Georgia's offense has been strong. Kentucky kind of rebuilding a little bit, coming off their College World Series appearance, so that will be a good one. But the best matchups of the weekend to me, you look at Arkansas versus Ole Miss, you got Hunter Elliott versus Zach Root. Can't ask for much better than that. Ole Miss's offense has not been all that impressive so far, so, will pitching stand out between Arkansas and Ole Miss? I kind of like Arkansas's pitching a little bit more than Ole Miss so far. Alabama and A&M. Aggies, of course, struggled after being the number one ranked preseason team, but they do get down at home at Bluebell Park. Bama playing above their heads so far. Offenses look strong. And by the way, A&M's pitcher, Ryan Prager, one of the best pitchers in the country. They 0.38 ERA. So that one might be one if you're Alabama. Maybe you're thinking about getting wins on Saturday and Sunday if you can't beat Prager on Friday night. And then the biggest matchup of the weekend, it's number one Tennessee against Florida. The Vols are a top 3 offense in the SEC and boast perhaps the best pitching staff in the country, led by Liam Doyle. Gators hit the ball very well, so we will see who prevails from that one. But it's going to be a fun weekend of first SEC taste here. SEC play in baseball going to be really fun. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On College Basketball Show with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. March is here, so be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. You guys have a great weekend. Talk to you guys tomorrow or Monday. Come on back and see us. Full reaction to the SEC tournament, football tidbits, more interviews, and much more.